What's up, folks? Doing another Best Ball Mania $1 million to first prize draft. $1 million prize to first draft. So we got pick 5 here. Should be kind of interesting. Probably either be taking Saquon Barkley or Travis Kelce. Gonna lean probably towards Kelce, but I'm gonna think about it a little bit more before my pick. So I've taken enough Jonathan Taylor over Kelce now that I can start switching back to taking Kelce over Jonathan Taylor. I like both of those guys more than Zeke. With Barkley, it's more like, do I want to start grabbing a share or two now, or continue to wait until we get a little more information on his injury? Think I would rather wait a little bit longer until we get more information on his injury. If he's going to be truly limited to start the season, I'm really iffy about picking Barkley as a top 5 pick. I'm fine with picking him at pick 7, like if he ever drops there, but that just doesn't really seem to happen. So if I want ownership, I kind of got to take it at 5. Like I don't want the ownership that much at this point. All right, Alvin Kamara fell to 5, so all right, I'm going to take Alvin Kamara then. I have quite a bit of Kelce. I was taking him like all kinds of spots, like because he would drop occasionally, to the 1-8, the 1-9, and I was scooping him up there. Plus, I was taking him at the 1-6 just off rankings. If Kamara hadn't fallen to what I feel like is like a spot later than you should get him, then I would have taken Kelce over Elliott and Barkley. So interesting to start off with Kamara. What are a few things I want to talk about? I really need to start getting some Darren Waller exposure, so might actually look for him in round 2 if he's available when we pick. Kind of depend what the board looks like, but I need to start getting some Waller. I just don't have any. I prefer Kittle to Waller for this year, and that's unpopular. So I was able to really stock up some Kittle shares. But that cost me some Waller shares that I now need to purchase, and I might have to overdraft a little bit. So the reasons why I like Kittle better is I just think he has a little bit of higher ceiling, since I think Kittle will be better with the exception of touchdowns, and both guys seem to be a little erratic on touchdowns. I mean, Waller was much better last year. But, if Kittle were to be better in touchdowns, I think Kittle would definitely be better than Waller. Obviously, Kittle's had a few injuries here and there, but I think that that's a little bit overblown. And Kittle has the dream matchup of the Houston Texans in what will be the championship week, week 17. That week is going to be fucking crazy. So those are reasons why I was taking Kittle over Waller. I do think it's super close. And now that I have so much Kittle, I will be taking Waller over Kittle at this point. So it is a player I have interest in round 2. David Montgomery is a guy I just don't really have ownership on. It's been rather tough to take him. I'm also looking to get a few more 5 running back builds. I've been mostly drafting 4 running back builds. So I'll draft 4 running backs a lot if I'm drafting 3 in the first 4 rounds. And then just one more guy, and then I fade. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more, wait a little longer on my 3rd running back. But, gotta kind of take what the draft gives you, so we'll see what happens. If I have to choose between Waller and Devontae Adams, that is not a choice I want to have to make. That's great. Waller's off the board. We cannot even get him at the 2-8. He has been incredibly difficult to get. We're taking Devontae Adams here. This is obviously there could still be the Aaron Rodgers trade scenario happening, but I feel like it being July 2nd that something would have happened kind of today if it was going to happen. Because either Aaron Rodgers could have forced his way out used the COVID opt out to just buy himself a year, and like he would still accrue that year, become a free agent. And Green Bay would be fucked. So if he was going to play hardball with Green Bay, he would have told them that ahead of time. Then they would have enforced their hand to trade him. So it kind of seems like he is waving the white flag and just going to end up showing up in in August. Saw that the Hard Knocks for this year is going to be the Cowboys again. That's ridiculously lame. Do not need another Hard Knocks of the Cowboys. We've had plenty. I forget who the 5 teams all were that were options, but I know that some of the options were the Giants and the Broncos. Would have much rather seen either one than going down the route of yet another Cowboys season. Pretty lame. Here's plenty of good options. Really only 2 decent running back options. I mean, Chris Carson's fine, but I wouldn't take him over some of these wide receivers. So we're going to have the option of probably either J.K. Dobbins or Michael Thomas. I think those are the 2 best players on the board. If one goes, I will probably take the other. Wouldn't mind getting a Keenan Allen or Terry McLaurin share. Do we want to take Michael Thomas with Alvin Kamara? I mean, there's just no real big reason not to. They don't really correlate with each other much. J.K. Dobbins is my most owned player, period, like of all players. So I'm just going to take a Michael Thomas share here. Maybe we'll shoot for a late Jameis Winston as our third quarterback. And we don't really need another. We can pick up another Saints target. Like, I don't generally pick 3 targets, but I don't count running backs as targets. Although, Alvin Kamara is going to correlate with a quarterback stronger than other running backs will. So we leave ourselves open to picking a late Jameis Winston as our third quarterback in this build. Would love to get Aaron Rodgers. The last time I took Devontae Adams, I got sniped the pick before me. Took Aaron Rodgers when it was like he was the 7th quarterback in ADP. So I was pretty fucking annoyed that he had won the pick before me. So I do have some interest in stacking like Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Tanyan. Because, I mean, obviously, like for Devontae Adams to hit his ceiling, then Rodgers is going to have to play. Like, this is the way it is. So if you're going to draft Devontae Adams, you may as well plan for ceiling, right? Because we're in this big tournament, which means you may as well plan for Aaron Rodgers being there in Green Bay. And if that doesn't happen, well, this team's probably just fucked, right? I mean, you're already... maybe Jordan Love could come in and be good enough for Devontae Adams to like do something, but I think it significantly hurts you there. So we're at 8 picks away. We wouldn't hate picking a running back if there's a reasonable running back to be picked at our pick. Mike Davis just went at the 312. No. Who takes Mike Davis before J.K. Dobbins? Like, seriously. Like, I wouldn't take him above Montgomery or Jacobs, but I mean, at least that's, like, somewhat reasonable. I really don't understand how J.K. Dobbins just goes so late in these drafts. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Got him in the 4th round, like the later 4th round of a draft recently, where I was deciding between him and Mike Thomas in round 3, kind of like this draft. And then he just fell. I do get that, Lamar Jackson's there and Gus Edwards is there, but they're going to have more rushing attempts than any other team in the league unless Greg Roman changes his offense from... We've had like 10 years of data on this guy's offenses at this point. Is Josh Jacobs going below like Jamar Chase now? Jesus. This is like getting wild with some of these guys' ADPs. I would like to get a Kyle Pitts share, but I'm not going to get it in this draft, I don't think. started picking up some Kyle Pitts when he was like in round 6, and then he went to round 5, and now he's going to round 4. So I think we're just not going to be drafting him anymore at this point, unfortunately. Well, the good news is we'll definitely get a running back, because we will have our choice of Dobbins, Montgomery, or Jacobs. I'm just going to keep slamming Dobbins in round 4. I can't take David Montgomery or Josh Jacobs over him. I just cannot make myself do it. I wonder what my ownership share on J.K. Dobbins is going to be at the end of this best ball season. It's going to be fucking ridiculous. I think he might be at like 67% or something right now. Normally, like I just don't like want people to get that high, but I basically have Dobbins ranked as a second round pick, and people do not. That's one I could 100% be wrong on. So if you guys are out there watching this video and you have a like very strong opinion against my opinion on Dobbins, I would say just go with your opinion, man. Like you guys, a lot of the people that watch these videos are pretty smart, and anyone that makes these videos like me or people that are bigger than me, well, that's pretty much everyone, but people are wrong all the time. So if you really have an opinion that you feel strongly about and decent reasons for it, like just stick with what you believe. Don't just change because you watch somebody's video. Like people will explain things, give good information. Obviously, you want to listen to that and try to get better, try to take their input. But if you are just like, hell no, that sounds ridiculous to me, then don't go with that. So, pretty much open to like pick anything this round. It's a nice thing about starting off 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. I will say that like I'm not a very big fan of Travis Etienne at his ADP. Javonte Williams' ADP has gotten up where I no longer like him very much. Actually, now like Melvin Gordon a ton, but that's because they've swapped ADPs. So like when Javonte was going in round 10, I was grabbing him up. Now that Melvin Gordon's going in round 10 or 11, I'm grabbing him up. I do understand that the reports have been in favor of Javonte so far, but it's, that was like OTAs. It's not a ton to go on. Like, I don't think OTAs means that much, but we'll see how training camp goes and whatnot as more information comes in. I do like Deontay a bit more than Galladay, but I'm going to take Galladay here just because I love the way the stacks match up with Daniel Jones being so cheap. I feel like he's one of the most like undervalued quarterbacks for best ball, specifically because he's a guy that's going to have like very, very good and very, very bad weeks. Plus, I just don't really have too much Galladay. I think that's the only second time I've drafted him, although that might have been 2 videos in a row actually that I drafted him. But no, I can't remember if it was the last draft I did off stream or the last draft I did on stream that I took Galladay in. But I'm pretty cool with getting Galladay there. We have many stack options, that are not expensive for our wide receivers, which is nice. Aaron Rodgers generally pretty cheap. Jameis very, very cheap, and Daniel Jones reasonably cheap. We'll be looking at a running back next round. This will probably end up being a 5 running back build, so I'm not like feeling any pressure to get a 3rd one right away. But I also would be open to a 3rd running back in the next round. Who would it be? I mean, probably not taking Chase Edmonds that high. It's just a guy I'm fading at ADP. Trey Sermon I'd be open to. Javonte I'd be open to, but I don't think he's making it 9 more picks. So Trey Sermon I think is like the guy we'd be open to that actually has a reasonable chance of making it to us. He does share a bye week with Kamara, which, if I'm on a 4 running back build, is something I care about. If I'm on a 5 running back build, then I do not care that I have 2 running backs at the same bye week. 4 running back build, I will only do it if there are 4 different bye weeks. The bye week crunch is like pretty real in these tournaments. Like best ball, floor is not something that is your main concern. Ceiling is your main concern, right? You're trying to come in number 1 out of 12 as many weeks as you can, build up that point pool, and walk away the winner. But a 12 week, like if you have a week where you finish last 12 out of 12 because you went too heavy on buys, and you had a couple injuries or whatever, they really can fucking sink you something fierce. So I do think buys are like pretty important. I don't get ridiculous about it. Just like if I'm only drafting 4 running backs and I don't want to with the same buy. With wide receivers, if I'm drafting 7 or 8, I try to keep it to 2. If I'm drafting 9, I don't mind if there's 3 wide receivers the same bye week. And tight ends and quarterbacks, I just don't draft tight ends and quarterbacks that have the same bye week. Like, I don't draft a quarterback that has a bye week as another quarterback I've drafted, and same thing with tight ends. We will have a reasonable option at running back no matter what here, because there's Gaskin, Javonte, Kareem Hunt, and Trey Sermon, all of which I think are pretty reasonable this round. We also may get a shot at Chase Claypool or Mark Andrews. Probably will get a shot at Mark Andrews, being that all the people in front of us have a tight end like that we're left to pick. I do like Mark Andrews quite a bit more than the next grouping of tight ends. Jerry Jeudy, huh? Well. I really haven't been taking any Javonte Williams, and like this is a spot where he's actually fallen 8 spots lower than ADP, so I'm going to take a shot here. Like his ADP had gotten all the way up to 60, and like I know I'm just not going to draft him at 60, so like I'm just taking this opportunity of, okay, he's like fallen 8 spots lower than he normally does. Let me grab a rare, what's going to be from this point forward a rare share. So that will wipe Melvin Gordon off of our list of candidates that we have interest in this draft. Next guy takes Andrews. Good pick for him. We will be fine just punting tight end at this point for a while, and maybe a round or 2 taking like a Fant or a Higbee, and then we can punt further than that if necessary. We do have some Saints in Michael Thomas and Kamara. Like I said, I don't really count running backs towards stacking, so could go with a Thomas Troutman stack. Troutman goes like a little too early for me. Like there's guys that go like 3 rounds later that I think are just as good, and I've also gotten quite a few Winston Thomas Troutman stacks already, so I might like fade that one and go for like a Callaway round 18 if I end up with Winston, who I'd probably pick round 16 or 17. There goes Gaskin. It's not a whole lot at running back left we have interest in. Sermon, definitely. Chase Edmonds, a teeny bit. Got quite a bit of interest in Juju. He finished as a top 20 half PPR, top 17 PPR guy last year when he sucked. When his sucking was still, top 17 guy. I'm all about that. I will not be passing Trey Sermon if he's not the pick here, though. So we're going to take either Sermon or Juju. I can't take Tyler Boyd over Juju with the situation changed in Cincinnati with James Robinson's a little bit of a thought, but I don't think I'll let that go by this time. I'm going to grab Juju. Definitely liking this wide receiver group so far. Adams, Michael Thomas, Golladay, and Juju. Running back group, it's really going to kind of be dependent on when Javonte Williams breaks out / does Javonte Williams break out. So remember when you're doing these things, like you want to kind of switch up some of these teams too. Like you don't always want to be picking between Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon only, right? Because if then they end up in a timeshare that lasts the whole year, they're both going to kind of not be that good. A lot of decent running back options on the board. We're 10 picks away, so might get a decent option for our fourth, whether it be Mostert, Damian Harris, Michael Carter. Definitely won't be Chase Edmonds because his butt won't be lasting that long. I have some interest in Higbee and Noah Fant. Ronald Jones is a guy I need to get like a few shares of that I don't have. Zach Moss is a guy I need to get a few shares of. So I wouldn't mind getting one of them as like my running back 4, and then maybe like a Naheem Hines as my running back 5. Something to that effect. This is a draft that's probably a little better lending ourselves to 5 running backs, which is nice. We don't have any dual bye weeks, but Javonte Williams as a third is like pretty boom bust. I do like that we got him 8 spots behind current ADP. Still probably higher than I would rank him myself, but do need to play the ADP game in best ball. So for tight ends, there's still Fant and Higbee that interests me. After that, we probably drop down to Tanyan, and we are going to try to get Aaron Rodgers somewhere in the vicinity of his ADP. Pretty good value on Mostert at the 8.5. There's 3 running backs right on the board here that I'm decently into. I don't really like Michael Carter, but he's a guy I don't really get shares of, so I am interested in a share. The next 2 people, I only have 1 running back. Be interested to see where they go. Jalen Hurts also at this almost round 9 ADP is incredibly nice. He's a guy I have a ton of. I'm going to take James Robinson here. I just like him quite a bit more than Michael Carter. I think if he hangs on to like his role, he's going to split with Etienne to some degree, but if he holds on to the short yardage goal line role, I think that this value will be very, very good. We're also getting him 8 to 9 picks below ADP, which is very, very nice. Great, great value on Hurts for that guy. I want to see how far down Aaron Rodgers is to see if we can like try to wait around on him. I don't know. Probably not now that all these guys are going. Noah Fant's a little interest. Never mind. He is not interesting because he is not on the board. Could go for a Ronald Jones share here. Or a Zach Moss. Kind of just tempted to take Aaron Rodgers at this pick and then try to get Tanyan next round to make that stack thing. Well, Leonard Fournette here wouldn't be bad either. I do need to take a few Ronald Jones. I just have so much Leonard Fournette, so. But I think we're just going to go Aaron Rodgers here and get our Rodgers-Adams pairing going. Obviously, for Devontae Adams to hit his ceiling, you're going to need Aaron Rodgers to end up the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers week 1, which I kind of think will happen now that he didn't push it by threatening to take the COVID year off. Wow, this guy has 3 quarterbacks that can't possibly be good. Mahomes, Kyler, and Tom Brady. Oof, it's just not a good way to build your team. Who's that? This guy? Yeah. Joe Mixon. Youth. Do not like that team. Still some pretty good quarterbacks on the board. Value at wide receiver doesn't seem amazing. Still a few running backs I would have interest in as my 5th running back, but I think those could roll off the board before we pick. Definitely won't be taking Melvin Gordon in this draft. I won't really draft 2 members of the same backfield in a draft. I just feel like it hurts your upside way too much. I'm not a very big fan of Russell Gage as ADP. It seems kind of ridiculous to me. I don't really expect his stats to look any different, really, than I think the last few years. It seems like he is who he is, so someone else will probably end up emerging. He seems like that high volume for as far as targets goes, but not really do a lot with the targets type of dude. Pollard is a dude I don't have too many shares of that I wouldn't hate getting a couple shares of. So we'll be open to that when it gets to our next pick. As far as wide receiver goes, I mean, I like Elijah Moore, Mecole Hardman. Not really a fan of Ruggs at his ADP. Really only try to take Rager if I've taken Hurts. Do have some interest in Tanyan, but if there's a decent running back option for us, we might push our luck with Tanyan another round. So I would say Jones, Moss, AJ Dillon are my favorite running backs on the board, followed by Pollard. Melvin Gordon, but like he's not on our radar for this draft. The people behind us all have 1 or 2 tight ends. Right. I own like a ton more AJ Dillon. I do want to kind of get some Zach Moss shares. He does share a bye week with James Robinson, but we're taking 5 running backs, so that's all right. So we can now get off running back. There's no longer a position where we need to draft any more players of. I'm going to try to take Tanyan with my next pick. If he goes before us, it's fine. We'll grab an Irv Smith or a different punt tight end. Cole Beasley, huh? Interested to see if Sanders like eats into his role at all, because Sanders has been like a pretty big slot guy. Emmanuel Sanders in his career as well. Beasley had like 80 catches or something crazy last year. It does sound like he has no interest in getting vaccinated, which is fine, whatever your choice may be, but also sounds like he doesn't want to follow the COVID protocols as far as testing goes. So that does actually matter to me in fantasy because, you can get suspended and all sorts of shit can happen if you refuse to be tested. Don't care if you refuse the vaccination. I do care as far as fantasy goes if you are refusing getting tested because it can affect your eligibility to play. Probably not looking at quarterback anytime soon. Or kind of shoot for Daniel Jones and Jameis Winston, who we can get a little bit later. So I'm going to take either Tanyan or Irv Smith here, depending on which, if Tanyan goes to this guy. Irv Smith's a guy I've cooled on some, but still at this point. I guess there's Evan Ingram that can go with a Daniel Jones stack, but there's so many really good Daniel Jones stack pieces that go later. I'm not thrilled with grabbing that. Should be a really good team if Aaron Rodgers decides to play this year for the Packers. Pick 20, Devontae Adams. Probably going to end up with quite a bit of Devontae Adams just because I feel like it's just worth gambling on. That's the type of gambles you really want to make in these best ball tournaments, A guy that might go pick 8 or so if Aaron Rodgers was locked in and at camp and everything, at OTAs. You're able to get him in mid-round 2. Wow, A.J. Dillon fell all the way to the 11-10 and Melvin Gordon to the 11-7. Those are incredible values for those players that got them there. Kind of stunk to take Moss ahead of them, but it just made sense for me because I have 10 times the A.J. Dillon as I do Zach Moss. This might be my first share of Zach Moss. It's number 1 or number 2. Dillon I have a bunch. And I wasn't going to take Melvin Gordon because I took Javonte Williams, and I also have a bunch of Melvin Gordon. Really, really like Melvin Gordon at his current cost, and Dillon. I'm willing to take those guys in around 10, but they usually go closer to where they went in this draft. Gerald Everett's ADP to me is something I want nothing to do with. It just really hasn't been that good, and I don't know. I feel like I could still use Will Dissly down near the goal line because he's a bigger dude. You really don't want your tight end losing touchdowns to the secondary tight ends. Quite disastrous because they're really dependent on those touchdowns to get you any sort of a boom week. So we pretty much got any position but running back available to us as picks we would like to make. That's the earliest I've seen Hines go yet, around 12. He's usually around 14 guy. There are some tight ends on the board that interest me. Is there anything really for wide receiver? Well, we know we're not terribly interested in a quarterback. There's some tight ends I like, so let's just get down to just wide receiver and see if there's anybody that really standing out to us. Really isn't. Could end up with Sterling Shepard to kind of end up with a stack for Daniel Jones. T.Y. Hilton's a guy I basically haven't drafted yet, so I wouldn't despise having a share of him. Rager's just kind of whatever. I really try not to draft Rager unless I'm drafting Hurts because I've drafted a good amount of Rager. Do we really want to grab Irv Smith? Don't like taking my second tight end this early, but might not be that bad to have 2 guys that are kind of higher upside guys. Could take Evan Ingram to maybe provide that Daniel Jones stack, but then I kind of close myself off to Tony or Slayton. Yeah, I don't know. I feel pretty whatever about that pick. It doesn't really excite me. I probably would have taken T.Y. Hilton if I was taking a wide receiver, which also doesn't excite me, so he goes next. So we'll probably look for one of Perryman, Kirk, Sterling Shepard, Bryan Edwards. I like Bryan Edwards a lot, but his ADP has shot up. I was getting tons of Bryan he's just getting too expensive right now. Like the risk is so high with him that it feels bad paying this price. So we're not going to be drafting any more tight ends. So we're pretty much only on quarterback, wide receiver at this point. Do you think we likely can get Daniel Jones the next go round? And I have a bunch of Daniel Jones stacks, so if we were to get kind of shut out on Daniel Jones, that wouldn't kill me or anything. So we got Perryman, Christian Kirk, Sterling Shepard. That kind of interests me at wide receiver. Could just take Daniel Jones. Don't love that. Kadarius Toney's a guy I need to stop drafting so much of. I have so much Kadarius Toney. All right, we'll take Sterling Shepard here and see what happens with Daniel Jones maybe making it to us the next round. That was a pretty high above ADP, but pretty much all the wide receivers and quarterbacks that were left were high above ADP, so we didn't really have much choice since those were the only two positions we're looking at from this point in the draft on. Seems like quarterback and wide receiver both went, earlier in general than in this draft than their ADPs. Love to see running backs go off the board. Take them all. Also tight ends. Take all of those as well. So we got 10 picks until our pick. Guys that we are interested in are Daniel Jones, Perryman, Brian Edwards, James Crowder, a little bit of Tyrell Williams. Sounds like Tyrell Williams is supposed to be the number one for the Lions, but I'm not sure how much that means. He does have a 1,000-yard season in his career. And the year after that, he started off pretty much a house of fire for the Raiders before getting hurt. Then he's pretty much been hurt since then. This guy right now has 2 running backs. It doesn't seem like that's going to work out great for him. I really prefer balanced teams in best ball. Or I don't mind going, running back heavy early, but then I really like to only stick to 4 running backs, 4 different bye weeks. I'm going to try to get away from that a bit for my next few drafts, like I said, because I've just been drafting 4 running backs a lot lately, 3 in my first 4 picks, and then getting very, very heavy wide receiver. I'm kind of getting frustrated that I was just always having one of the big 3 tight ends at the beginning of these best ball drafts, and now I just have been missing out on them a lot. So it's something I want to focus on moving forward too, is to try to get more of the big 3 tight ends. Did have a chance to take Kelsey in this draft, and we would have taken him over Barkley and Zeke, but I wanted to get a Kamara share when he was what I felt was a little cheap. One-man wolf pack with his 3 early QB build. So we've opened ourselves up to be able to complete our Daniel Jones stack. It'd be nice to take one of these like wide receivers that are still on the board that we like, but I'm just gonna complete that stack right near ADP for Daniel Jones. Depending what's available to us this next round, we could consider Jameis Winston. I don't overly have that much interest, but like if the wide receivers are all whatever to me, then I might take him. I really like how cheap Denzel Mims has gotten. So I do understand that the way it sounds from camp is that he's on the outs, right? He's not going to have a starting running back position. It's going to be Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder. But if you remember, about late in the best ball season last year, the Vikings came out and said that they were very unhappy with Justin Jefferson in training camp and that they were basically giving his spot to Olabisi Johnson to start the year, which did happen. Then Jefferson just took it away from him very quickly. But let's not forget that happened, right? So, like, you really can't get too wild and crazy about, reports coming out of OTAs. Like, oh, Denzel Mims can't possibly start. Well, I mean, Corey Davis already has an AC joint injury. James Crowder just took a pay cut. Sounds like Elijah Moore is destroying, so Elijah Moore is probably safe. But the exception of Elijah Moore, those other two guys are just kind of whatevers. So who am I looking at? Tyrell Williams, Jameis Winston, Denzel Mims. Kind of who I'm looking at. Well, of the quarterbacks, I definitely want Jameis Winston the most, so let's click them off just to look at what we've got here for wide receivers. I mean, Tyrell Williams interests me the most of these wide receivers, and that's, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm just going to take Jameis Winston. Finish off my quarterbacks. I just don't like Tyrell Williams that much, so whatever on that. We'll pick wide receivers for the last 3 rounds. Shoot some shots. We already have 2 stack pieces for Daniel Jones and Aaron Rodgers, so we're not really looking for anything there. Jameis, we have Kamara and Michael Thomas. Don't really count Kamara, but on the other hand, like Marcus Callaway is probably the best Saints wide receiver remaining, so I'm not wholly against taking him, but I'm not really like thrilled to take Callaway either. Do find it a little disappointing that, I think I thought my wide receiver group would be better than it's going to be after I took Juju. I was like super excited about those 4. Then there just really wasn't like many good picks at ADP for us. I think we had a decent shot at someone when we took Aaron Rodgers. Probably had an okay shot at someone when I took Zach Moss, but I really needed to get a share or 2 Zach Moss. When I took Irv Smith, there just wasn't wide receivers I liked. It's not that I particularly need more Irv Smith or anything, but I just felt like his upside was a lot better than the upside of the wide receivers that were available at the same time. Do we want to go deep into a 3 stack? Definitely not in this draft because we're only going to have 8 wide receivers, right? So I will not be drafting Kadarius Toney or Slayton there, guys. I already have a bunch of ownership on different teams anyway, so that's fine. I think comparable players are Eskridge, KJ Hamler that we can grab. Do like me some Nico Collins. That was a player I am very interested in. And then probably grab Callaway with our last pick if he's available. Do not have interest in Van Jefferson. So I'm not really too interested in Amari Rogers either because I already have 2 stack pieces for Rogers. Let's say right now I am most interested in Nico Collins, then KJ Hamler, then Eskridge. I have quite a bit more Hamler than I do Eskridge, so I should probably take an Eskridge over KJ Hamler. Derek Carr's a guy I absolutely love at his ADP. Love, 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 love. I'm really getting tons and tons of Carr and Winston as my third quarterback. Carr's like the slightly less upside, safer version. I just forgot that I was only taking 8 wide receivers. All right, let's take Eskridge. So I didn't really want to take Nico there because I have the 2 Giants wide receivers that are already by week 10s. And since I'm only drafting 8 wide receivers, I would like to avoid 3 wide receivers with by week 10. So we're going to kind of hope to go Eskridge, Hamler, and then Callaway. Zacchaeus is a guy I have not drafted yet. I have a couple dynasty shares of him, though. Definitely don't have to take Callaway in the last round if something like weird happens where somebody who's way better falls to us. Josh Palmer's another guy I like a little bit. My phone is blowing up. People complaining about the Dallas Cowboys being on Hard Knocks, and must agree with them. Pretty fucking lame. Third time, and they were on All or Nothing. Over you, Jerry Jones. Whew. Oh man, One Man Wolfpack was also the guy who took the Kyler, Mahomes, and Brady. It was also the guy that took Travis Kelce. So he has like just so much investment into not wide receiver and running back. This running back group's not horrific. I mean, definitely not good. But if somehow, some way, Joe Mixon were to actually hit his ceiling, he may be like at running back. Wide receiver is like pretty weak. I just it's almost all people I just like do not draft. Do not pretty much don't draft any of these people. So we have Callaway as an option in the last round if we want. He should probably be there. Just like not much left down here. Zach Pascal is an okay like dart thrower. He's had like 600 yards or something in the last 2 years. Does probably need an injury to be relevant, but Paris Campbell and T.Y. Hilton have been some dudes that get them injuries. Randall Cobb's another guy I don't hate, but I don't really end up with him because by week 10, I've got a lot of Giant stacks and a lot of Nico Collins. So I would say right now our rankings for our last pick are kind of like, ooh, Callaway went, so he's gone. So actually the top 2 guys on this board are the 2 people I have the most interest in. I would be willing to kind of wade into the 8 wide receivers through the same bye week if Nico Collins is still there, because that just would be crazy value. Nico to me is like around 17 guy, so I mean you're only getting him around later. But anytime I can get him around 18, I'm fucking excited. He situationally and physical abilities wise reminds me kind of like DJ Chark. Last year or 2 years ago, where there just wasn't much competition for targets and he was physically the best player. If he goes off the board here, we're really into the poo territory. Like at this point, I don't give a fuck about 3 guys the same bye week. He's just so much my favorite player available. I'll just deal with the fact that I'm going to have 3 guys week 10 bye week on an 8 wide receiver team. That is fine. Don't chew. Do it. Oh, yeah. Yep. So that's pretty nice ending up with Eskridge, Hamler, and Collins to end at our wide receiver group. I think that's all like some dudes that have some decent boom week upside. I really hate like all these like handcuff type running backs that you get in the late rounds. I want like if I'm taking a handcuff running back, I want them to be able to do something without an injury, just like random touchdowns. You know, like Tony Pollard sometimes like just gets out there for passing down work, gets touchdown. Like I'm fine with Tony Pollard. But when you start getting like too deep into these guys, they're like just pure handcuffs that basically don't do anything without injury. I'm not too much into them. All right, that'll do it for this one. Good luck in your draft, folks.